I would like to tell you a story. It is an old story, and it's a story that I've heard multiple times from different parts of the world. But as this is not my story, I have asked permission to share it. Layla lived in a land where tradition could be as strong and oppressive as the noon sun. Layla was of marrying age, and as tradition dictated, young men were to come to her father with a bride price, most often bringing 2 or 3 cattle as payment. On occasion, a groom might bring as many as 4 cattle, 4 cows, for a bride who not only possessed beauty, but knew how to manage a family, knew how to barter, how to trade. 4 cows for a bride who would bring status and recognition to the groom's family. But Layla is common. Layla doesn't barter well or trade well, and Layla doesn't bring status or recognition. Everyone knows this, and most of all, Layla knows this. And so, making the meal preparations, she's not surprised to listen through the window and hear her father speaking with another village elder. There is but one young man of marrying age nearby, Bassam. And while Bassam is a good man, Bassam is a shrewd man. Layla's father now worries about the bride price Bassam will bring and how he will need to respond. Layla hears the elder asking her father, "He will be here soon. What will you do if he brings only 1?" And her father saying, he could bring 2. And again, the elder saying, he could bring no cows at all, but a goat or something worse. What will you do? Layla's father sighs, and she can hear the weight of his worry, his fear. But almost mechanically, she returns to her work. And as she continues to prepare the midday meal, she hears a new sound, distant at first, but growing. Laughter. Outside, Layla can hear the growing sound of laughter as the villagers come closer, and she knows that Bassam has arrived. Cleaning her hands, Layla turns and faces the door. Through the door, she can hear the din of laughter, and she knows that everyone in the village has gathered around her father, Bassam, and the offering that Bassam has brought. Facing the door, she pauses. And then Layla reaches forward and she opens the door. As the wave of laughter comes crashing over Layla, her eyes are first drawn to her father. His bent shape facing Bassam, she can see he has been unable to hold back tears of disbelief. She follows his gaze, passing face after face of laughing villager until she herself sees Bassam and what he has brought. Now shock and disbelief bring Layla's eyes to tears as she sees Bassam standing in front of her father with the bride price. Not 3 cows, not 2 cows, not 1, but 8. 8 cows. Bassam has brought 8 cows to Layla's father. That night after sharing a meal, Layla and Bassam returned to his family amid laughter still ringing throughout the whole village. And over the course of the next couple of months, the villagers continue to laugh in amazement at crazy Bassam and his 8 cows. Was he ever as shrewd as anyone had thought? How could he have such disregard for tradition? Now, this chatter begins to ebb away with the passing of the seasons until the new year approaches, and with it, the harvest festival. And once again, everyone in the village is remembering and laughing about Bassam and his foolishness, waiting for Layla and Bassam to return. But on the day of the festival, there is no mocking. There is no laughter. Rather, all of the villagers are amazed as Bassam and Layla return, and before their eyes, they see a woman about which there is nothing common at all. A woman worth far more than 8 cows. I share this story with my counseling students. I share this and I talk about positive psychology, about the study of qualities and virtues such as compassion, humility, gratitude, modesty, and grace. I talk about narrative therapy and the power of story. I ask my students, when have you been besom? For many of my students, they have a ready answer. These are people passionate about being in a helping profession. And they can easily identify as someone who sees potential in another person, someone who can believe in another person even when that person may not be able to believe in themselves. They talk about volunteering. They talk about working with at-risk youth. They share personal stories. They have a clear idea of where they fit into this story. I then ask my students, when have you been Layla? Oftentimes there's a pause after this question. Though we may have been in need, though we may have needed help, we can be reluctant to share those stories. Those stories require rapport. They require trust. But those are the stories that build the foundations of empathy. Though my story may have vastly different details, I too have looked at that door, unsure of what's awaiting me, full of fear and loneliness. I ask my students, when you have been Layla and needed to open that door, what did you feel? This question is far more important than what counseling strategy to employ, what therapeutic intervention to use, even what theoretical orientation they adhere to. This question is important because it leads to what their client is thinking, what their client is feeling. If they are to be counselors that truly help, they need to know what their client is feeling. They must make a real connection, an empathetic connection with another person. And story can do that. Story can be inspiring. We can speak of women and men who faced challenge greater than the sum of all their strengths, and through their victory, we can find courage to persevere. Story can be heart-wrenching. We can hear of intense sorrow, and walking alongside grieving characters, we can be moved to compassion and humility. Story can be personal. I can share of my darkest hurts, and that burden can be divided up, and healing can begin. I can tell of my proudest moments, and that joy can be multiplied for others to relish. Story can build connection using what we share in common as well as what we hold different, not dismissing differences, but recognizing, using, even celebrating those differences. So I would ask you, as you leave and go about your day, as you interact with others, as you live out your story, reflect on these questions. These two questions that can expand awareness, our empathy, and help us build connection with others. When have you been Bassam? When have you been Layla? Thank you.